Welcome to Green and Gold FC. I am joined today for a bit of a pellet cleanser after all the chaos in the game after the last week. We have a special preview for this season's Aussies abroad. First of all, welcome to my usual co-host, Alex. How are you going?
Well, considering I've had my usual fix of Perth Glory FC, I could be better, but you know what? Happy to be back for another episode here, as always, and we're discussing a positive topic for once, that being Aussies abroad. So yeah, excited to get into it. Plenty of Perth natives here that we're going to be talking about today. And I'll tell you what, I am certain that they're glad that they're not at the Glory still.
So we did miss a podcast on Thursday because obviously you had to go to a really important game with Perth versus Milan. And I got to ask, was it worth it?
You know what? I'm still trying to decide that myself. I grew up watching AC Milan. I'm an Italian. It's one of my favorite clubs in the world. And somehow I've come away from watching them play my home club, absolutely hating life and regretting ever getting into this sport. But you know what? That's just something that I'm going to have to cop on the chin. It was a rough performance. I think we embarrassed the A-League in a large way, but who knows? Maybe we're on for some massive David Zrilic remontada, and we're going to be lifting the golden toilet seat come season end. But who knows? Honestly,
I mean, they should have played Brisbane Roar. We would have lost 8-0 easy.
It's true.
You know what? With the way that you boys have packed your preseason schedule, I wouldn't even be that inclined to say you're wrong.
So, and we have James from the Soccer Who's podcast, which is very good because we have 53 players to get through this season. There's just so many. I think probably even more because there's some transfers not certain. And it's easy to look at these people and just say, Soccer Who's? Who are these people? So I think we need a podcast. I think we need
Who's
a podcast
who in the Soccer
track. How are you going, James?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Always a pleasure. And ready to get into it.
Absolutely. So first of all, let's talk about the needs to cleanse our palate. I'll keep this to 2 minutes because there's a lot of frustration at governance from a number of issues. We have the national second tier. Okay, rumors is Schrodinger's rumors at the moment, opposite rumors coming out from some pretty well-sourced people. But in the end of the day, there's no home and away season scheduled in the foreseeable future, as far as we know. And of course, we have Ugali, who still are in crisis mode, being kicked out of their league. And of course, some anger even in Western Australia at the ticket pricing basically going to AC Milan. So I don't know if I've covered all of it. There's probably even more. Western United, goodness gracious, we can't even get to Western United. So let's have Festivus for 2 minutes before we get into the into the good stuff.
I don't even know where we can begin with all the problems that go wrong in Australian football nowadays, guys. I can't even lie. You go to every single state and there's seemingly a new issue. You've got Football West don't know how to manage a touring European side. You've got the ACT kicking out an NPL club from the league. You've got the Victoria, one of their A-League teams is about to fold. You go to every new state and there's a new problem.
Queensland's on a list, I'd like to point out. We had our problems last year.
Yep.
Oh, give it a couple of months, mate. It'll always pop up again.
The Raw hasn't exactly been completely inspiring the last 10 years, I should
Quality social content. So that's what really matters. Hired a new social media manager and it's looking great from that side of things.
I don't even think I follow them on Twitter, so that's... I should. I will after this show. Okay, let's get into it. So I don't want this to sound like a telephone directory because there's 53 players. So just to break things up a bit, I'm going to list the players, particularly focusing on the new ones from each league. And we're going to just have a Harperism based on where we think they're going to go well, where well means they're going to play pretty much every game if they're fit. Of course, we can't predict injuries. Not really, a bit ambiguous, like maybe in and out of the squad or just terrible. And I hope I'm organizing these Harperisms into the right categories because honestly, I think he's being positive when I've put them, but and I think I've got the hang of these, but if not, let's just go with it. Okay, so let's start with the Bundesliga. So we know Irvine, assuming that there's no issues with his different political views over Israel-Palestine, he's probably going to be started. So we'll skip him. But we still got two others. We got Casey Boss and Metcalf. Let's start with Casey Boss. Ooh.
not sure how to feel about it.
So not getting game time at Mainz. His blood is going to be splattered over the Bundesliga, over the bench, I guess. Care to justify that?
I think it's just a bit too soon, to be honest. We've seen the guy one season of full professional football, and look, there are cases where you can justify a player making that move early. Casey Boss is someone that I definitely feel needed that senior experience a bit more. I feel he needs to sort of grow into the physicality of it a bit more, the sort of pace of the game. Very talented player, as I'm sure we can all tell, but someone that I just felt that at times would sort of just let their inexperience show in certain situations. So maybe needed a bit more development before moving to the Bundesliga. But Mainz is a good club for development, so hopefully he does well there. And I don't see him getting too many minutes, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll see a good amount of him in the Region Liga, which is obviously where Mainz is under 23s play. Yeah, it's just a little bit too soon for me in terms of the big Bundesliga move. I wouldn't be opposed to see a loan move in January. So 6 months under the belt, training at the Bundesliga level, then a loan move to the second tier, for me makes a lot of sense. But in terms of the first 6 months playing at the Bundesliga level, yeah, too soon for him. I don't think he'll be ready. I think for me, I'd be stoked to see him get 2-3 bench appearances. I think that's what we're looking at. Really good training levels, a few bench appearances to earn his stay in German football as a whole, rather than the Bundesliga itself. I don't think he'll be ready for that this season.
So hopefully we put the reverse commentator's curse on him and he's starting every match.
Exactly.
So I'm going to include Connor Metcalf as a new person, basically because he's injured almost all of last season. So where's Connor Metcalf come?
Tidy on the ball, but he tackles like a turnstile.
Tidy the ball, but tackles like a turnstile. I think he's basically the opposite, right? So
Connor's one of those players where you're really hoping that he can get back into his full stride. I'm not sure he will, just because he has spent a while out with injuries. He's had those reoccurring problems. I'm sure he will get his chance to get back into the sort of starting 11 at some point, but whether or not he takes that is just up to his performance purely.
Yeah. I see him being a rotational player again this season. When he came back from his injury, he was a rotational player. He played in the wide half space attacking areas. He also played as a wing back a little bit and very rarely as a DM. I see similar kind of thing off the bench playing all of those roles, especially in that wide wing back role, half space attacker, either or. I see him being deployed in those roles, and his versatility is both a blessing and a curse. He's not quite good enough to be a starting level player in the Bundesliga, but his versatility helps him stay afloat in the Bundesliga. But because of that versatility, they aren't incentivized to start him regularly to develop. So it's a good and a bad thing, but overall for Metcalf, I think it is a good thing because he is going to be playing semi-regular Bundesliga football, but it just won't be consistent, whether that be in time or position.
Fair enough. Let's move to Austria. We have two people I think are established, so maybe we can skip them. We have Jed Drew and Jacob Italiano, who incidentally seems to play for a club that's named after myself. My online nickname is Grazer. But we have two newbies. We're going to assume that the Tilio move goes through. Let's start with Tilio. Oh, double positive.
It's like Jesus washing the disciples' feet, isn't it?
Jesus washing the top.
I'm loving this soundboard, lads. This is brilliant.
Yeah, go
Tilio is someone who desperately needs to be tested at the European level. I think we can all agree on that. Look, he is getting into his mid-20s now. He was a player with sort of huge promise. I don't want to be the guy that jumps the gun and say that the Celtic move wasn't the right one for him. Obviously, he did have his injury issues and stuff, so who knows how it would have played out. Obviously, Celtic was a club that admired him for a long, long time beforehand, so I'm sure there was a plan for him there. It just hasn't worked out, unfortunately. So I think this move to Austria could not come at a better time. I think he's outgrown the A-League in terms of his development. And look, if Tilio is going to be someone that we are viewing as a potential starter for the national team going forward, especially when you see guys like Craig Goodwin, guys like Martin Boyle, start to drop off a bit in terms of performance, you really need him picking up that sort of pace and developing to the level that we know he can be. So, look, Austria is a great league. I know we are briefly touching on guys like Jed Drew and Jacob Italiano. Very excited to see how they go as well this season. But Tilio in particular, I think this is, in terms of the national team, this could be one of the more important moves or transfers of the window so far.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of game state, and what I mean by that is how the game is played, the tactics deployed, and passing patterns and things like that. The Austrian Bundesliga and the Swiss Super League for me are incredibly similar to their A League. So for me, this is a very natural move for Tilio, and I think it will suit his skill set, which is being a direct dribbler that looks to create chances from his feet. From the way he is able to move the ball himself as opposed to create space for others, if that makes sense. So I think it's a natural move for Tilio, and it's a really important move for him to, as you said, Alex, really get his feet into European football proper. And a proper long European season will be beneficial for Tilio and his stocks going forward as it relates to Socceroos, because consistency for Tilio has always been the issue in my mind, and this move presents a great opportunity for him to prove that consistency.
Yeah, I just got to say on Tilio that I was thinking about him at Celtic, and he's behind Martin Boyle for the Socceroos, and I can see Martin Boyle maybe starting for Rangers, but not for Celtic. So it seems very difficult for Tilio to make it at Celtic unless he develops his game somewhere elsewhere and manages to leapfrog Martin Boyle, I think. So let's move on to Bodic. So where's Bodic in thumbs up? Do we have 2 thumbs up? Oh, thumbs up and ambiguous. Oh, I don't
It's
know
an
which one to
emphatic
play.
one for me.
Okay, I'll play
There's
the
a lot of souffle talk from time to time.
So let's hear the souffle talk. Let's start with the positive souffle.
Yeah.
This is
Look,
a coffee souffle.
if
That's my
anything,
favorite.
the one criticism I can say of his move is that maybe there were potential better suitors, and what I mean by that is maybe he could have looked for a more ambitious path, a club with a higher ceiling. Obviously, he had suitors in the championship. There were apparently suitors in the Bundesliga, and like I said, some top end championship clubs. And he's gone with a relatively safe move to Austria. Now, I know that he's gone to a big club in Austria, and I think it's important because, look, I might be reading too much into it, but giving a new young foreign import from Australia the number 9 shirt at your club, if anything, just speaks volumes to the kind of trust that they're going to show for someone like Noah Botic, who at this stage I feel needs to be consistently starting. He needs to be getting consistent 90-minute games. He needs to be being tested at a high level, and I think he's going to be able to get that. Look, I don't think that a move, to the Premier League or something like that's necessarily going to be on the cards, but he performs well in Austria. You could see a move to Germany, could see a move to the Championship in 2 years' time anyway. So if he's going to establish himself with a role for the national team, whether that be a rotational role or just someone who goes to the camp and everything like that, I think the most important thing for him right now is going to be that consistent game time. So hopefully Austria is a good place for him. I know he's been doing decent in preseason so far. Looks like it'll be a decent season for him, hopefully.
Yeah.
So what about some truffle souffle? I once had one. I wasn't sure whether I liked it. So James.
Yeah. I want to lead off by saying I agree with everything you have said, Alex. For me, when I posed with, hey, what was the original question? It was, how much is he going to play? When you're a foreign striker moving to a foreign league, first real bout in Europe, let's be real. He played youth football in Germany, yes, but this is his first senior steps into European football. I think he will be rotated because there will be periods of his season, this upcoming season, where he may go 4 or 5 games without scoring, and he ends up playing 30 minutes off the bench for a few games, and then refines his run and comes back into the lineup. I think for me, it will be a great move in my mind for Botic. He just won't play locked in starting striker every game for the season kind of level. He's going to take a little bit to find his feet because there's a lot more games in the European season, and Botic, that's always been a bit of a question mark for me. He gets thrown into a lot of duels, and sometimes his center of gravity isn't perfect for me, which I'm a bit concerned about lower limb injuries in that regard. But I think he may be in and out of the lineup a little bit, but I still think it is a great move for him to really grasp onto European football and look to make a move again in 2-3 years' time and establish himself in the Socceroos. So great move, but will just take some time to adapt in my mind.
Okay, now moving on to Portugal, we have a striker for a mid-table club, Anthony Carter. So where are we sitting on him? Thumbs up. Ambiguous. Oh, another one.
I'm sort of half pregnant then.
Okay, so why is Anthony Carter half pregnant? I have no idea what that means.
Is he in the lineup or is he out of the lineup? Which one is it?
Oh my god. Look, I personally think Anthony Carter is going to be getting plenty of game time this season, and I think a big reason why he didn't succeed in the A-League is purely just because his style of play is not what you'd expect for his sort of build. He's a big, tall, lanky striker. You'd expect him to be someone who'd focus majority on his hold-up play, being a bit of a poacher, stuff like that. But his build-up play is absolutely fantastic for someone of his build. And I think that's where he really strived in Portugal last year, is that he was sort of given more trust in being able to actually be a part of that build-up. And I really hope, and look, this may be just wishful thinking from me, but I do think Santa Clara have done a bit more research and probably have a better idea of talent ID compared to the MacArthur Bulls. So I'm really hoping that Anthony's going to be able to kick on. He's someone that I do think should be in serious conversations for the national team, for a national team call-up, especially going into the friendlies before the World Cup. So look, let's just see what happens. I know he's already been involved in Santa Clara's European campaign so far. He's, from what I've heard, had a good preseason as well. So promising signs for him. Will he be their starting striker week in, week out? Who knows? That remains to be seen. But he's coming off of a great season in the Portugal second division. I see no reason why he can't kick on again.
All right. What's the other half of his pregnancy?
I'm just not fully convinced, if I'm honest, by Anthony Carter. And I think he found a great level for himself. I think getting promoted with Alverca was a great thing, but I'm not convinced to his level now stepping up, especially when he's versing some of the higher end teams like Porto, Lisbon. I'm not quite sure of how he'd translate, and I wouldn't be surprised that he spent significant portions of the season on the bench as an impact substitution. So I think for me, I would have been a lot more convinced if he stayed with Alverca rather than moving to Santa Clara. I think for me, that was an odd move because Alverca really figured him out, right? It was his first really big season in my mind as a striker, and to move on from that so quickly and to a team in the same division, not quite convinced on that move. It opens up a lot of jeopardy in my mind, and I'm just not sure with Anthony Carter's track record throughout his career, he'll be able to deal with that jeopardy.
It's a very strange move, isn't it? Like, you've been promoted, so you're playing in Portugal no matter what, but then going to a high level team. You'd hope that that's because he's caught the eye. I'll be honest, I've only seen his data. I haven't seen him play because I just can't find streams for the Portuguese second division. But his data is very strange. His data basically makes him sound like a playmaking giraffe. He's a very unusual. He's a giant whose main asset is his playmaking. He plays as number 9. So so maybe his failure at A-League was basically because he was misprofiled. So fingers crossed that's happened. So good luck to Anthony Carter if you're listening. Okay, so next we have Denmark. We have 2 which are established, which is Paul Izzo and Motura. I'm really hoping that Motura starts dominating the league either this year or next year. No pressure, of course. All players develop at different rates, but before World Cup year, that would be a huge boost. But we're going to go on to Moussa Touré. We've got consensus.
Who wrote this script? Hans Christian Andersen.
So I cannot tell whether Hans Christian Andersen writing a script is a good thing or not, but so I put that ambiguous. So okay, so yeah, I mean I'm in consensus. He's behind his brother for one thing, right? But I think we could probably just move on unless anyone's dying to say anything.
He's an impact sub.
Yeah,
That's real.
Purely, that's the role he's probably going to fill this season as an impact sub, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. What about Ollie Jones? So he was a mid-season transfer, but he's basically been injured all the time. He's injured now, but assuming he gets fit, hits the ground running, where's he?
Yeah, just it's hard to tell with someone like Ollie because he has had his injury issues, of course, but Randers seems to be a good club, especially for Aussies getting into the league. Obviously, you have Viking as well, who have been Viking in Norway, should I say? But in Denmark, Randers have sort of been that club that is showing a lot of faith in young Aussies. Ollie Jones is someone that didn't overtly impress me at MacArthur. Whether or not that can translate to the European level, we'll have to see. He is still young, so he has time, but I don't imagine he'll be playing too big of a role this season.
Mm. I really like Ollie Jones, but he, for me, succumbs to a typical centre back issue in the modern game. He's a wide centre back in a 3, and I don't know how he fits in a 2. And with multiple injuries that he's sustained so far in his career at Randers, I'm not sure of his development. I think if given opportunities, he would do well, especially in the 3, but I'm just not convinced of if those opportunities will come. And that's mainly my concern. I think if given them, he'll thrive, but Randers are under no obligation to give him those opportunities as they have other options there, which is fair enough, right? So for me, I'm like, it's a hard one to predict of what it will look like for Ollie Jones.
So I'm going to skip through a few of these. So France has hopefully still Matt Ryan. Switzerland still has Liam Chipperfield, who seems to be working his way. He was in and out of the starting lineup last year, and so you assume a good year this year. Mobile is, of course, in Spanish second division. I'm going to pause on the next one because he was a mid-season transfer and seemed to be making momentum, but I'm not sure how momentum. Dennis Jonro in the second division of Spain.
They're a Ferrari body with a V-dub engine.
Okay, so who wants to talk about?
It's just a bit of a weird move. I'd imagine he'll have a good role to play. It's just, was this the right move to sort of force your way back into the Socceroos setup? I don't really think it is. I just don't think it's a high profile enough move. And look, I know he wasn't exactly a starter at Toulouse, but I just feel like maybe it would have been more beneficial just sort of playing that rotational role there. Honestly, who knows? I'm sure that he is enjoying his football, and if he does continue to perform well, obviously he can secure himself a better move. I just feel like at a time when the national team is screaming out for those more creative midfielders that we seem to be missing in, large propriety, I just think that maybe a different move could have been the better option here.
I mean, Denis Jean-Roux, he thrives in very specific profiles, right? It's deep build-up is where he's really good, or it's final third recycling. Those are the two areas where he has the most impact in this game. And La Liga 2 is a very wide, very end-to-end style of football, which doesn't have much recycling. It doesn't have much deep build-up. It's very transitional. So for me, it isn't a good stylistic fit for Jean-Roux, even though on paper, technically, yeah, he should be one of the starters in this league week in, week out. But his profile doesn't fit the skill set that most teams build around. So it's an odd move, and that's where I'm very airy-fairy. His technical prowess will give him opportunities, but his stylistic fit, his tactical fit, will restrict those opportunities in terms of how he can impact them, which will affect consistency greatly.
So let's move on to Belgium. Now, we have some early hints because the Belgium season starts early. He's Ryan Teague. He's gotten 22 minutes and 5 minutes in his first 2 matches. So I'm going to shift the goalposts and say that good is he is a starter by Christmas and keeps that, assuming fitness. Okay, we got one thumbs up. We got another thumb up.
God, if he's Johnny Mulder!
So how is Ryan Teague going to go off his whatever in Belgium?
I just think it's a perfect move for him. I understand why people are skeptical about the Belgium move. I have seen a few people sort of questioning why he didn't want to go to a more ambitious club, such as there was offers in England for him. Obviously, I'm pretty sure there was a club interested in the Bundesliga, if I'm not mistaken. But I just feel like Ryan Teague is a player with such a high ceiling in terms of his technical ability, in terms of his physical ability, and such an important player for us in the Socceroos setup, a move to Belgium just seems perfect. Absolutely perfect. I don't want to comment too much on stylistic stuff and stylistic matches because, to be honest, I haven't watched too much of the Jupiler Pro League, so I'm not gonna dwell too much on that. But in terms of a team that I think he can break into, Mechelen is a really good one. I do feel like there's some good competitors in that league. He's going to be up against tough opponents where he's going to be able to seriously improve himself to a good level. And look, I don't think he'll be in Belgium too long. I do foresee him getting a better move within a year or two. And hopefully that does occur sooner rather than later, to be honest, because Ryan Teague is a fantastic player. And I would love to see him nail down a starting spot, not only in Belgium, but for the Australian national team as well.
I agree completely, Alex. I think for Ryan Teague, where he thrives is in deep build-up, and Belgium League is a very technical league. So I really like this for him. For me, comparison straight away to Aidan O'Neill. Slightly different profiles, but very similar in terms of how they look to impact the game. And for me, Ryan Teague will transition very naturally. I mean, we saw Aidan O'Neill become a club captain and be extraordinarily impactful and become a very key transfer outlay for his club. And I think we'll see the same thing for Ryan Teague. He'll have a great year. I personally would love to see him stay on the continent. I personally think he can step into the Jackson Irvine mold for the Socceroos for years to come. And I would love to see him end up in Germany as well, because I think that'll be a beautiful fit for Ryan Teague's skill set.
It's been an amazing start for his club right now. So you almost wish it's not too amazing. So there's a reason to bring in some new players.
Yeah.
But they're fly high on top of the ladder. Okay, so we're going to move to the Netherlands. Hurstik is back in town. So, you know, he's been at this club many, many times. So I expect him to start. Bellard, we know, is expected to start. Nisbet and Pupio in the second division. Good luck to them. We're going to have a new face. So we have Jordy Boss for Feyenoord. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Oh, is that going down? That's going down. That's going to get a... Oh, is it up? I feel like I'm watching...
I'll give it an up. I'll give it an up. I'll stay positive here.
Fine bromance developing there.
Feyenoord's a giant club, a historic club. Geordie's going to be playing European football. He's going to be having a heavy European schedule, which is good. Obviously, he had his injury issues towards the back end of last year, which does suck. However, Feyenoord is showing a lot of faith with this signing. Look, Jordy Boss is going to be essential for the success of the Socceroos going forward. He has the potential to be our starting left back, left wing back for the next 10 years at least. This move, in my mind, is perfect for him. I feel it's a bit too early for him to move to a top 5 league and sort of be in and around that rotation mixed with the heavy schedule. This is a place in Feyenoord where he can absolutely establish himself as a star player, really raise his stocks, really develop as that sort of high-octane fullback that we've really been crying out for in the national team. And you know what? I'm gonna say I think he's going to be a fantastic player in terms of the Eredivisie this season. I think he's going to be one of the best up and coming players. I don't know exactly how to put it in words without me sounding like an absolute goose, but I'm saying he's going to be a breakout star. Is what I'm trying to say. I fully expect that this season.
It's simple, I think, in my mind. If he stays healthy, he'll be one of the best left backs in the whole league. That's a big if, though. If he stays healthy. That's always been the problem with Jordy Boss, right? Do his hamstrings go or do they not? If they stay intact, it'll be a phenomenal year for him, and a lot of heads will turn to Jordy Boss in terms of the club world. If the hamstrings go, Feyenoord will be like, yeah, okay, we got a good left back. He's going to give us a few games. We'll have to find a rotation option, but we'll make do with him because we know how good he actually is when he is healthy. So it's just a health thing in my mind. It really is all that comes down to.
If he's a regular for Feyenoord, that puts him in the same category, I guess, for me as Lazaridis and Chipperfield as some of the best left backs we've ever produced. So really incredible achievement if he makes that. Speaking of people who are all-time greats, I'm going to skip over Sakati because I believe he's just probably going to be
Wonder
starting.
kid.
Yeah, he's probably the only person who's had an early club career better than anyone in the golden generation from the entire A-League era so far. He's already first choice for Serie A. He obviously did his ACL. Managed to, I don't know if he found a faith healer or something, but he was back in 7 months and did those crucial performances for the Socceroos. So good luck, Sakati. Hope you're safe, fit, and healthy. Let's go on to one whose fate is a bit more uncertain. Let's go to, assuming he plays for the Socceroos, we think of him as Soccer Who, Volpato. Up and across, okay.
Missy Higgins would say all that speculation was just stuff and nonsense.
So it's Missy Higgins say. Alex, you want to go first with the utter nonsense?
Christian is someone who has heaps of potential. I think we all know that. Regardless of whether or not he chooses to play for the Socceroos or whether he chooses to play for Italy, I think he'll eventually come around to playing for the Socceroos. Maybe not under Popovic, because Popovic doesn't seem too keen on anyone who's not sort of like frothing at the mouth to play for the national team. But look, Christian is someone who I think really, really needs a consistent run of minutes. And is he going to get that in Serie A? I'm not sure. I do know that there are a bunch of clubs in Serie A that have been looking at him. That's quite well documented. Parma, Sassuolo, obviously. Roma was in for him at one point, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So he has no shortage of suitors. The only problem is he going to be able to get those consistent minutes? Is he going to be able to establish himself as a starting player? Is he going to be able to sort of kick on and take that next level? I personally don't know if that is going to be the case this season. He's in a bit of a grey area. I don't know if he's going to be able to establish himself straight away as a starter at a Serie A club this season, but I also don't think a loan move is the right thing for him. I think he needs to stick it out in Italy. I think he needs to grind it out, crunch it out. Whether or not he actually kicks on and has a good season is purely down to his performances. And that's just the rough situation, is that sometimes you do get these obvious cases where it's like, yes, they're obviously going to be a starter or get plenty of minutes, they have to stay, or no, they're not going to get plenty of minutes, so let's obviously send him out on loan. Christian's in a grey area right now. So I think it's either find a permanent move to a lower tier Serie A club, or just gut it out and just see what you can do for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think, for me, I think of Volpato. He, at this stage of his career, is a inverting right winger, right? Great left foot. He's not ready to be a 10, I don't think. And so for me, he is an inverting right winger. The reason I gave a positive review is I think that this could be the year that we see Berardi slow down. He's a player that relies on his low center of gravity, his dribbling game, and 32 years of age in, I think, a day, time of recording. I think it will be, maybe time to slow down for Berardi. I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of regression, especially after going back into the Serie A. His experience will be greatly leaned on as a key figure within the squad, but for me, a Son Heung-min kind of level of regression wouldn't be a surprise to me, and Volpato is a very natural replacement to my mind for Sassuolo, and I think that's the reason they haven't gone, we'll cash in now for 10 million euro for this guy, because they foresee Berardi slowing down this year and looking to make the change of guard occur this year.
All right, let's move to the championship. So I don't want to go through all of these one at a time, because it's brilliant. There's 18 players in the championship. So I'm going to read them out, and then we're going to put them into 3 categories. 1 is going off the Johnny Mulder, which is good. 2 is half pregnant. And 3 is entrails splattered over the penalty area. Okay, so I'll list them out first, and then you just give your lists in each category. Okay, so Sutar, Burgess, Glover, McGree, Silvera, Pearman, Adamson, Benny, Waddingham, Matthews, Segasic, Farrell, Luongo, Irankunda, Raphael, Elder, Maynard Brewer, and Miller. Okay, so let's start with the categories.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that? Sorry, Graham, I didn't catch that list the first time, but yeah.
It's a good problem to have. We're going to have a busy seasons at Aussies Award on the forum, and I'm sure your podcast is going to be double the length this season, which is a good problem. If we keep this up, I don't know, maybe it'll have to be a 6-hour documentary every week.
I think I genuinely can see a lot of them breaking through at certain points. I will just go off the ones that I do think this is where they're at currently is really good, and I do expect them to have good seasons. I'm saying that is going to be Silvera. I'm saying that's going to be Adamson. I'm saying that's going to be Waddingham. I'm saying that's going to be Segicic, and Irankunda. I'm only naming those 5 right now. Actually, sorry, I'm going to throw Miller in there as well. I'm only going to give those 6 because there's questions that I have over a number of them. Suter, I think the championship is a great level for him for the moment. I just think he needs to move to a different club. I think Leicester is not going to give him enough game time. He is crucial to the national team. He needs to find a new club in England in the championship, preferably. Burgess, staying in the championship's really good. Fantastic. I do think he's sort of starting to lose his legs a little, so I do think we need to find that sort of next centre back to come through and take his spot. But for now, happy that he's in the championship. He's going to be a great servant for the national team for the next 1 or 2 years until we can get a replacement. Tom Glover, he's not going to be a starter. I think his time in the national team's probably come to an end, unfortunately. Riley McGree, just fitness problems, man. That's the only thing, is that he just can't keep himself fit, which sucks because he's a brilliant player. His legs are made of absolute glass. I'm pretty sure I said Silvera was really good. I've heard heaps of reports stating that Middlesbrough are absolutely loving him at the moment. There were plans for him to go out on loan or be a permanent sale, but he's really impressed in
left
pre-season.
wing back.
So, yeah, I've heard that. But look, obviously that versatility there is good. I'm just hoping he has a really good season. I think he might. Pearman's a rough one because I do feel like he is at that stage where he does need to be getting plenty of minutes. I don't know if he gets those minutes at QPR, but I do know that he's a promising player, and it looks like QPR values him very highly. So hopefully he does get plenty of minutes. Keely Adamson is going to have a breakout season. He's going to be fantastic. We've been saying this for ages, but he's going to be phenomenal this year. Daniel Benny is a bit of a weird one, just because I feel like his better role is suited to a more defensive. I don't see him as an out-and-out winger. I will just say that. I think he's a fantastic right wing back. I don't know if he is sort of technically gifted enough or maybe mature enough to be able to be that attacking force that QPR really needs. So I don't know how that's going to work out. Waddingham, I think, is going to have a great year at Portsmouth this year. Hopefully plenty of minutes. The coaches love him. They've been saying it in interviews all throughout preseason, how much he's improving. So let's hope he has a great year. Hayden Matthews, I think, needs a loan move. I don't know if he's going to be getting that many minutes at Portsmouth. Obviously, he had his problems with injuries. I wouldn't mind a loan move to League One. I think it'd be good to get him some valuable minutes. Segicic is going to be phenomenal this year, whether as an impact player or a starter. He can play on the right wing, he can play on the left, he can play in the 10. He's got great versatility. The club's given him the number 10 shirt, for God's sake. Like, let's be real here. Jacob Farrell needs to keep fit. I think he can have a great season if he does keep fit. Massimo Luongo, his time in the sun has come and gone. I love Massimo. I think a move back to the A-League soon would just be a nice little ride-off into the sunset for him. Irankunda, this season has the potential to be one of the most vital seasons that we've needed for an individual player. Because whether or not Irankunda succeeds this season could dramatically change the dynamic of our attack going into the 2026 World Cup. If he kicks on and has a phenomenal season, we could very well see him being that major attacking force that is needed going into the World Cup. So hopefully he gets a good run of games, a good sort of spell of minutes. There are multiple people that I've spoken to in and around Watford saying that this is being seen as the club as a high-profile signing. So that just poses just goodness everywhere. Rafael Borges Rodriguez probably needs a loan move as well. Obviously had his troubles with injuries, so maybe he does stay around at Coventry, gets a few minutes here and there, but I do think a loan move could be a good option for him. Callum Elder, someone that I honestly thought at some point last season would have been involved in the national team setup rather than Jason Davidson. I don't even know why we did that in the first place, but that's for another day. If he didn't make it last year, he probably won't make it at this stage, unfortunately, but he is still a quality left wing back if there is one needed. Maynard Brewer, a Perth boy. I don't think he's going to be getting in the national team setup anytime soon, but he has been impressive for Charlton. Hopefully he does well again this season. I would love to see him involved in the national team setup, but who knows? Last one, obviously, Lewis Miller. His transfer going through at Blackburn, not confirmed yet, but hopefully that does go through. his redemption arc has been nothing short of phenomenal. Going from probably one of the biggest liabilities in the national team, he's now a hero. He's performed phenomenally recently, both at club level and international level. This is a really good move for him. I do feel like he has a relatively high ceiling in terms of maybe even a top-end championship club. Whether he does make it to a top 5 league, I'm not too sure, to be honest, but I do feel like a championship club, a high-end championship club eventually is a really good spot for him. I do hope that he does kick on because he genuinely has another good 5 or 6 years ahead of him as a top-level fullback or even wing-back for the Socceroos. So let's see how that goes. And yeah, plenty of things to be excited for in England at the moment.
All right. Do you want to give us the 3 categories, James? Entrails, half pregnant, and going off.
There's a few. I'll kind of just go through my mental slog of it all. I think for me, in terms of the new transfers, Sagasek will be good, positive. There'll be periods where he spends on the bench, but he'll be mostly in the lineup. I'd expect him to average 60 to 70 minutes a game for the season, which for me, massive positive in the championship. But we'll definitely have games where he is an impact sub because that's where his skill set can sometimes lie. And I think he will struggle playing 40 plus games in the championship. That will be a massive adjustment. I love Keely Adamson. I think he should have been capped for the Socceroos last season. He'll be fine. He'll have a great year. Not much more for me to say on that. The other big new transfer to me, Lewis Miller, great player, as you said, Alex. A bit of a comeback trail. I think for me was fairly unjustly disliked within the Socceroos camp. I think he was left isolated a lot to do a lot of awkward one-on-ones that he probably should have had a second player pinching in on challenges. So he was left out on the limb a little bit. But I think this move for him is very natural, suits his skill set, and will kick on well. Injury is the only question mark for me. That could mean it is a little bit half-baked. And finally, the other big move for me is big move for everyone, Aaron Kunda. The first month will dictate a lot. He's going to Watford, for goodness sakes. We have to remember that there'll probably be 10 different first-team managers for him in this first season for Watford. So the first month for Aaron Kunda is crucial. He has to hit the ground running because Watford love to chop and change. So they will show little regard for his previous accolades and their previous hype of him if he doesn't hit the ground running. Watford love to pretend they're a big club, despite probably not having that status. That being said, one thing I really respect about Watford is they know how to develop wingers. João Pedro, for example, is one of those names that instantly come to mind. And they've had a few other quality wingers come through and develop and sell on for tens of millions of pounds. So they know what they're doing with wingers. They're hyping up Aaron Kunda. He seems like the next in line of Watford wingers to come through. So I think it'll be a great move. In terms of existing players, not sure on Sammy Silvera. Wing back is interesting for me. It seems to be the classic Australian footballer position of, oh yeah, he's got a tank, decent technical ability, but he loves to work hard. So wing back it is for you. I'll see how it goes. I'm not convinced. In terms of the other players, yeah, we've got a bunch of backup keepers. They're backup keepers, and we'll see how they go. In the limited opportunities they have, Jacob Farrell, if he stays healthy, phenomenal for me. The player that a lot of people don't speak about, should be in the Socceroos, Callum Elder. Fire out. He had a great season last year. He's probably going to have a great season again this year. He has, yes, been injured at inopportune times, but his injury record isn't that bad compared to some other players. So I think Callum Elder needs a lot more respect. The rest of the QPR boys, look, bench minutes and loans for me make the most sense for Benny, Pierman, etc. Riley McGree, if he stays healthy, he's great. And in terms of the Portsmouth lads, Waddingham, bench minutes, rotational minutes, sure. Developing, big year for him developing, but nothing to be too excited about. Hayden Matthews, I actually really like. I think he will have an opportunity and seize it. He's one of those players for me where he'll have one opportunity. It may come in December during fixture congestion, and he will seize that thing, and he will stay in the lineup after that one opportunity. He's just got to get that one opportunity. So I really like Hayden Matthews. I think his poise is so beyond his years, and for me, the key differentiator between players at the championship level is that composure. and he has that in spades. The big player I'm concerned about, and I think a lot of people are, is Harry Suter. How he hasn't had a transfer yet, I don't know. Achilles, sure, but Leicester don't want him, and he needs to find a move. Maybe it will become in January because of the injury, but that's probably the biggest issue for me. And coming into World Cup year, he needs to sort that situation. Him and Matty Ryan are probably the two Australians I'm most concerned about.
So just a couple of smaller leagues on the continent before we get to the final league, which is the SPL, has many Aussies there. So Croatia has regular appearances, Kelic and Karasic, but we have a new boy on the town, Noah Skoko.
My goodness. Always an incredible young talent. He's very, very highly spoken of in terms of the Croatian youth setup. My only concern is that he is going to be prioritizing Croatia at this stage. I think that is quite obvious. If the Socceroos can somehow convince him to nationalize for Australia, that would be an incredible steal. I don't imagine he'll be getting heaps of minutes this season purely because he is just a teenager. He is just sort of breaking through to senior football. But I think it's going to be an important year for his development. I think it's going to be an important year to see where his allegiances lie in terms of his his priorities for the national team and stuff like that. And obviously, I'm assuming both countries will be chasing him and monitoring him very closely. So more of a developmental year for him. I'm excited to see what he can do sort of off the bench with rotation minutes. And next year, hopefully he kicks on really well.
Can we get Joseph Goko on the Socceroos staff, use nepotism to our advantage?
Get all the dads on.
Here at
Get
the
all the dads
Socceroos,
on.
we've been long advocating for this. I reckon, yeah. Alex Robinson, get him organising the bus. Yeah, we can get Dad. He can be organising the kids.
Christian Valpardo's
lots
parents.
of things. Yeah, lots of things we can be doing here. But for me, Noah
Get Popovich and
Skoko,
his 3 sons.
really. There we go. Christian, get him in. Tons of talent, Skoko. For me, the only reason it's a bit half baked, a bit lukewarm is purely he's a 19-year-old kid, right? He is going to be playing football this year, but there'll be periods of the season where he is going to be off the bench because he is struggling to find consistency. It's a story of every young player. And for me, he's not going to be a regular starter. He's going to be starting for periods of the season regularly, but not over the season as a whole. That being said, it will be a great season. It will be a tug of war, and Australia are on their back foot. And Noah Skoko, I really like as a player. Last 18 months, I've really liked him as well, looking at his development through the youth leagues and the Youth Champions League especially. I've really liked the look of him. And I think this year is going to be his proper breakout year, and it will be the year to really watch his international allegiance, because I wouldn't be surprised to see Croatia come from a senior national team perspective in the next 18 months.
So Daniel Azani in Hungary for Ferencváros. I don't know if I pronounced that anywhere near. 2 thumbs up. He has missed their Conference League games. I don't know if there's an injury there.
Who cares? It's just good to see Daniel back in European football. Look, he might not get the most minutes at Ferencváros. I think we can accept that, but I do feel like this isn't necessarily his last shot. Maybe his last shot to sort of establish himself at a sort of top level. Maybe not a top 5 league player, but someone who can kick around the Eredivisie, the Austrian Bundesliga, something like that. Look, Ferencváros is a club with heaps of history. Maybe not sort of European pedigree in terms of being contesters for trophies necessarily, but definitely a team that's constantly making Europe in and around their heavy fixture schedule as well. So, look, if he can stay injury-free, could be a good year for him. I think he will be involved in the national team setup going forward for at least the next 1 to 2 years regardless. So, look, if he can nail down a starting spot and become more than sort of just an impact player in moments, I feel like he's got a real good shot of actually breaking through.
Look, I think he'll play. Will he be a regular starter? I am not quite sure. I'm not convinced. I thumbs it up because it's a move. I don't mind it. It's a bit weird. It's a bit odd. Hungry. Don't know if it fits his skill set all that well, but it's just fun. I just like the move. It's a bit different. It's a bit out there, and I enjoy it. It's very Daniel Arzani, right? He's a bit different in football, in terms of Australian football, right? He's not your prototypical Australian footballer. He offers something a bit different, a bit unique, and that's the reason I really just like this move. It's fun, it's different, and that sums up Daniel Arzani. He's kind of, He's that player that you select for the Socceroos and you're like, look, it may be 20 minutes of nothing, but it could be 20 minutes of brilliance. Who knows? And it's a simple thing of this move. It could be a season of nothing. It could be a season of brilliance. I don't know. It'll be fun though.
So let's move on to the Scottish Premier League. We're going to do the same thing again, go through all 12 players because there's a lot of them. But not all of them are new. Many of them are already established. So you have Katrumbis, Devlin, Stamatopoulos, Milanovic, Sapsford, Cassini Yengi, Tate Yengi, Ryan Strain, Iredale, Boyle, Neuenhoff, and Suman. So let's mostly just focus on the newbies, but Katrumbis can count as a newbie because he's only just starting.
Johnny K, big special K. You know what? I loved him. I loved him at the Glory. I still do miss him. I don't think he's in with a shot of getting into the Socceroos setup. I'll be completely honest here. But look, I hope he has a good season. I love Johnny. He was a good player, relatively consistent. Hopefully he gets good minutes and has a good time. I don't imagine he'll be doing too much to get into the national team setup, though, unfortunately.
I don't mind him as an outside centre back. He could be an interesting 10th choice. 11th choice, okay.
Steve Bradbury their way into the Socceroos starting 11 after
yeah,
injury
that's
crisis.
He's one of those Australian players where it's like, you know what, I like that he's doing well overseas, but he's just not Socceroos quality, let's be real. But he's one of those players that you just want to do well because you know it raises stocks of the A leagues.
Mm-hmm. So Devlin is known quantity. Let's move on to Stammer. Was injured enough last year that we can count him as new. Milanovic, Sapsford. Let's go those three. Let's do three at a time.
I'm gonna say, you know what? I actually reckon I like all three of those, to be honest. Stammer, I think is going to be in with a good season this year. Look, from what I hear, he's still very well liked among the club. There is just concerns over his injuries. Absolutely, you'd be stupid not to be. But if he can stay fit, look, I know we say for all of these very injury-prone players that if they stay fit, they'll be great. That's kind of the problem. But if he stays fit, there's no reason as to why he can't have a good season. Look, Milanovic, this was a bit of an iffy one for me, just because Aberdeen, I know, is a team with a lot of quality, not going to be winning the league anytime soon, I'd imagine, but will be challenging for that sort of third spot, maybe even second spot if they have a great season. Obviously, he had suitors elsewhere, but I just feel like this is a good spot for him to sort of just plant his foot down, put his head down, get some consistent minutes, play against some opponents that are maybe matching his sort of quality and his level. And if he performs well, he will get a bigger move. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Sapsford is someone who I did not expect to have this good of a start for Dundee. He has gotten off to an absolute flyer. 2 games, 2 goal involvements, a goal to win them their first, I believe it's Conference League qualifier, the first leg, and the assist to win their second leg away from home.
A nutmeg on the turn.
You know what? Sapsford is a very interesting player because I don't expect he'll be in the Socceroos side this year, but he could be one to definitely keep an eye on, especially as an impact player. He looks like he could provide serious value.
Yeah, for me, I love Sapsford. I think I said last year I think it was August, that for me, he's the most natural Mitch Duke replacement because he offers you very similar things to pressing. His aerial game, I think, has very much a lot of potential, and he's just intelligent, right? The way he moves, the way he sees the game. He's one of those players that the higher level he gets to, the better he gets. He's one of those players. I really like Zach Sapsford. In terms of Stemat, I'm a bit concerned because he is a player that thrives on chowing up 90s. He's one of those builder players, right? He has to play 90 and play 90 and play 90 to build consistency. He gets better the more he plays. So I'm a bit concerned because of the injuries in that regard. But also he relies a lot on service, and I don't know how quality the service will be consistently. Milanovic, I think, will be fine. I think he'll lack a little bit of end product, but that will be the developmental point for him, because what Milanovic strives at is duels. He is phenomenal in a duel, and he's probably the best Australian in a duel that we have exported in a while. His low center of gravity, despite being very tall, aids him in that, and I think it'll be a very natural transition to Scotland. He just needs to figure out consistency in the final third, picking the right moments, picking the right passes, and picking when to shoot and when to recycle, which is fine. He's a young player. That happens. So I like all three of these. I'm more concerned about Stamatolopoulos, however you want to say it, more than anyone else. Zach Sapsford will have a great season. Milanovic will have a learning curve season.
Yeah, Saps was a really interesting player because sometimes when you see players in the A-League that really stand out, it's usually because they're taking on lots of players or doing really flashy things. His game's very, very simple, but he's deceptively technical, I think. Technically neat. Okay, so I'm going to count Strain, Idale, and Boyle as known quantities, but I'm not going to count Neuenhoff because he's been injured so much. I'm going to treat him as someone new. So let's go the Yangi brothers, Neuenhoff, and Suman from the Scottish Third Division. He's just signed for Aberdeen.
I'm going to say, look, for the Yengi brothers, I think they're both at good levels compared to sort of where they were last season. Obviously, Tet Yengi, I think he's going to have an all right season. Nothing fantastic. He's not going to break into the Socceroos lineup or anything like that. But surprisingly, last season, he did really well. I certainly hope that he's going to be able to continue that form this year. And look, maybe he is someone that you can consider as like your 8th or 9th choice Socceroos striker. I hope it never gets to that point that we have to call up Tet Yengi, but he looked all right last season. Cassini, it's going to be a very important year for him. Obviously went from being sort of the first choice striker for the Socceroos, his injury problems, stuff like that. He had a good run at Portsmouth with games and actually got a few goals. And then obviously his injury problems once again came to the surface. He's a very interesting one because once again, the move to Aberdeen, he's going to be there with Milanovic, hopefully a good link up there. And it does actually look like Aberdeen are planning to give him plenty of game time if he can stay fit. It's just the question of can he stay fit? And that's always the big question with Cassini Yengi. We know that there's quality there. It's just he needs to have a consistent run of games without, his legs falling off. Callum Neuenhoff, really, really big season for him as well at Hearts. I think he is someone who could potentially break into the Socceroos squad. Maybe not the starting 11, but could potentially break into the Socceroos squad. Now, it is very unfortunate that he did have this big sort of injury hit season because you did have a lot of sort of midfielders that had really good years last year. You had Ryan Teague, you had Max Ballard, Paul Ocon Jr. obviously coming into his own now as well. Guys that are going to be competing with him for those spots in midfield for the Socceroos that are having really good seasons. So Neuenhoff, this is going to be a big year for him. I think he does need to leave Scotland after this year. I'm thinking if he has a good year, could get to a sort of higher end championship club, that would be a good move for him personally and give him the best shot of getting into the national team. And look, Suman, I don't really have anything to say there. I don't know if he's going to be getting any men. I'd imagine not. It's just a bit of a he's there. Best of luck to him, I guess.
You don't watch the Scottish Third Division very often?
No, surprisingly not. Look, I've seen some interviews with Suman. He seems like a nice enough guy. But yeah, I look. If we maybe get down to our 30th choice goalkeeper for the Socceroos, I guess we can give him a glance. But like I said, best of luck to him.
How about you, James?
Yeah, Suman's a backup. I don't think there's any really. Suman's a backup. I don't think there's really any need to dwell on that one. In terms of the Yengi brothers, Teddy Yengi will be impact sub. The Cassini Yengi, it's injuries, right? It's a classic story. I think Scotland will be a little bit lighter on the body. Is kind of just my vibe check, right? There's a few less games. I think 46 to 38, so a bit of a decrease from the top of my memory. Not certain on that one. But yeah, less games in my mind, less couple competitions, that's for sure. So that will help. And he's had a better off season as well, a better pre-season. So I think he'll have a good season, borderline great season. And it's just, I'll be concerned December, January for me would be the big concern, which coincidentally is probably the most important period of the season for international selections because you have the February-March window, which is pretty much the final audition for the World Cup squad. Mm-hmm. So that will be a very interesting part of the season for me. Neuenhoff, my main concern is getting into the lineup, right? There's a great deal of trust that has been built up with Devlin, for example. And I don't know if they'll play Devlin and Noinov together. That is probably my concern. Noinov, I think, should be in the team. But when you've been that injured for that long, there is definitely a barrier of re-entry into a team. And a coach will just be more inclined to, hey, bench appearance here, bench appearance there. Noinov is one of those players where he's not going to demand a start based on a bench appearance, because he's a player that will just make everything a bit smoother, right? Build that play a bit better. He will create better recycling opportunities. So I don't know how he'll go with those bench opportunities to prove he should demand a starting spot. That's my main concern with Noinov, is getting back into the starting lineup could prove difficult. But once he does, I think he will stay if he stays healthy.
So we're still waiting on moves for Garen Quoll, Matthew Ryan, Triantis, Robbo, Eunice, and Pieris, who are all rumored to be moving somewhere or the other. Anyone to keep an eye on there, or anyone that's making you tear your hair out?
In terms of club moves, I think it's going to be important look, obviously Matty Ryan needs to be sorted. Looks like he's going to RC Lons, so that'd be a fantastic move, personally, in my opinion. Qual needs a good club move, really, really needs a good club move. I've seen a lot of people saying that he should return to the A-League. I don't think that's the right choice necessarily. He needs to stay in Europe. He needs to tough it out. He needs to build that confidence. He needs to build that experience and that maturity, and he needs to get exposed to the European schedule. Look, I think the championship, a mid to low championship club or a high-end League One club would be good. Tough schedule, long season, and hopefully plenty of game time there. Triantis and Robbo, look, while we are interested in their club move, obviously, I'm personally more interested in their international allegiance, especially, well, I say especially, both of them are going to be crucial players for the Socceroos if we can pick them both up. Personally, I'd actually like to see both of them end up at Portsmouth. I know, haha, Portsmouth, Australia, but, I actually think that Robertson being back at Portsmouth would be a good move. Obviously, out injured right now, so not playing for Cardiff today. Triantis, not in the plans at Sunderland, despite wanting to tough it out. Of course, he would want to. They just got promoted to the Premier League, but I feel like a good championship move would be perfect for him at this stage. And look, Marcus Eunice, less to be said about there, to be honest. I do think that, honestly, there are a lot of reports about him being linked to Sweden in particular, BK Hacken. Look, Marcus Eunice is just someone who needs minutes at the minute. I do think a sort of Sweden, Denmark, Austria sort of move would be good for him. I don't think he's ready for the sort of heavy schedule of the Championship or League One just yet. I think he needs to develop a bit more in terms of his maturity, in terms of his end product. So I do feel like a move to Scandinavia could be good, and then hopefully after that a move to a more prominent league.
Yeah, I'm disappointed Marcus Eunice isn't having a season in the A-League, to be honest. I really like him in the A-League this year. I think he is a very natural Milanovic replacement in many ways. I think he can fill a lot of that void. And I wouldn't, you've just seen the season Sekazachad returning from their loan to the Netherlands. I don't know why, as Western Sydney Wanderers, you're not backing Marcus Eunice to say, hey, you can be that guy. Look how Milanovic and Segasic have now kicked on. We view you in that same mold. For me, it's a bit of a man management question mark, and maybe they just don't rate Marcus Eunice. Maybe there's something in training that I'm not seeing, obviously. It is a bit of an odd one for me. In regards to the rest, Matty Ryan, yeah, he needs to sort something. He's not at a club. Helps be at a club to play football. And then Grank Wall, it's a weird one. Look, for me, I'm not entirely opposed to him playing Premier League 2 consistently. He is very devoid in confidence, so playing against peers his age, in terms of the highest academy level, arguably, in the world, isn't a crazy thought. Because, hey, some players, they just don't break through to senior football until they're 22, 23, and that's okay. And maybe Geraint Wall is in that mold because physically he just doesn't quite seem there yet. Maybe he's going to be a late bloomer in that regard. So I'm not sold either way on Geraint Wall. I don't think it's a crazy rush for him. But yeah, like you kind of said, Alex, the eyes kind of naturally turn to Triantis and Robertson because there's club questions and international questions. For me, Triantis is especially interesting. I think Robertson will end up playing the season at Cardiff, be able to keep parts in the promotion run. Simple as that in my mind. But for Triantis, where does he go from here? I really like a Bundesliga move for Triantis personally. I think he very naturally fits that league. I mean, looking at players of a similar style to him, names that come to mind is like Eric Dyer. Eric Dyer was a phenomenal footballer, phenomenal halfback that played centre back and DM. Triantis similar. He can play both. Triantis offers a bit more ball carrying that you wouldn't expect for someone of his size, but is a very unique profile in that regard that would serve well to the Bundesliga that embraces those unique profiles. So I think for me, Triantis is the bigger question mark of everyone because it's now very late doors. Most seasons have started, kind of have to get something organized soon because, I mean, starting 11s are being decided by coaches. Preferred players are being decided by coaches. He has to decide something probably in the next 7 days.
Yes, we've all been waiting and keep seeing moves rejected by him. So I think that's all we have time for. Actually, I just got on my phone a notification that Geordie Boss is starting against Wolfsburg, but I believe that's in a friendly. So but
It is in
hopefully
a
that's
friendly.
hopefully that's
Still
some good
nice,
sign.
though.
It's still nice, still a good sign. So good luck to him today. Thank you so much for joining us. Just remember you can see James at Soccer Who's and also on Twitter. Of course, Alex, you can see both on the forum and on Twitter and on the Back Four podcast. You can see us, Green and Gold FC. You can see us at greenandgoldfc.com. Please make sure you comment about how completely wrong all our takes are and how you're going to set the record straight. And and you can also find us on Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Please hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help us out. Until next time, that's all we have time for. It's bye for now.